Hi, everyone. Good morning. I am in several epilepsy groups for Ari, as well as a Glut1 deficiency support group, and even just an absent seizure in general group. And I have been sharing a lot of information about Glut1 and epilepsy in that group. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go live because I feel like the only way to truly raise awareness for things is to have people understand what these kids go through just in their short lives and what they're dealing with on a daily basis until you're able to find a way to diagnose them. So I wanted to share just a little bit of background on Ari. Oh, she's coming to say hi. You want to say hi? Come here. You can come say hi. She's eating her lunch. Say hi.
Hi.
So, she's eating her lunch right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. All right, go eat your lunch. You can come back and say bye when Mommy's done, okay?
Okay.
Go eat. Anyways, so I wanted to go live and kind of just, raise awareness for this. I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. It's kind of difficult because I have a lot of stuff that I need to go over. But if this video reaches even one mom or parent out there or person or child or anybody in general and is able to help to, bring some awareness and shed some light on something, then I am super happy. So I'm going to start off with something that I heard and read recently, which is that there are around 500 people that have been diagnosed with Glut1 worldwide. There's around 30 cases of Glut1 like Aria's case. So she is beyond super freaking rare, which I'll share more as to why. No, please don't do that because those are Mommy's notes, okay? Because I'm trying to help, okay? Can you go eat your lunch, please?
I did.
Go finish.
I did.
Okay, then go play in your room. I took that stuff down from your closet for you, okay?
Yay!
I just took down the little house thing that you wanted to play with.
Which house thing?
The thing, you'll see when you go in your room. Sorry. Anyways, so there's around 500 people that have been diagnosed with Glut1 and about 30 cases of the type of Glut1 that Aria has. So I wanted to kind of explain the background on Glut1, what exactly is it, and the difference between having a gene mutation and having a phenotype Glut1. So what is Glut1? So Glut1 has to do with protein. So it's basically the way your body breaks down protein. It changes it to glucose, goes across the brain barrier, and how it is transmitted from your glucose transporter to your brain. So what happens in a case with Glut1 is the person cannot take that glucose and break it down enough to where they're able to transport it across their brain barrier to give their brain fuel. So instead of the glucose giving their brain fuel, it's actually trickling to their brain because their glucose transporter, it doesn't work properly like yours or mine or someone who doesn't have Glut1. So instead of their brain getting energy from that glucose, it's actually starving. Another wild thing that I've recently discovered too is, that too much protein can then be turned to glucose, which can be not great for a child with Glut1, which is why Aria being on the ketogenic diet, it's not the fad diet that everyone does to lose weight. It's actually a medical version of the diet where she can have very limited protein as well as very limited carbs. 86% of her diet is fat because that's what her brain needs. But anyways, getting off track. So a little bit of background on Glut1. With Glut1, they initially start off by doing genetic testing. So what they do is they, test the genetics to see if there's a mutation. And typically 80% of the kids or people who are diagnosed with Glut1 have a mutation on their SLC2A1 gene. Aria does not. She actually has what is called a phenotype Glut1. So what this means is she has a boatload of symptoms of Glut1. She has a mild phenotype version. So the difference between that is 80% of the cases have a gene mutation. She does not, which is wild. So this is why I had to push them to do the lumbar puncture to confirm her Glut1, because they said only, I believe they said 7%. There was only a 7% chance of her having it after her gene mutations coming back, or her gene, genetics coming back normal. And now this doesn't mean that there isn't another gene somewhere out there that they're going to later discover, because Glut1 is super rare. So they're constantly learning more and more about it. So it could be that in a few years, they do some tests and they find some things out and they're like, whoa, this gene is actually also affecting the glucose transporter, and they add another gene on, and then who's to say Aria doesn't have that mutation? They just haven't found it yet. So as of right now, we call it a mild phenotype Glut1. Now, here's the thing, okay? So in the epilepsy community, the Glut1 Foundation believes that there are around 40,000 people undiagnosed with Glut1, okay? So this is why I find it so important to raise awareness. So I want to share some of the things that Glut1 can cause so that you can kind of understand. So for starters, around 4 months old, Aria started having abnormal eye rolling. I noticed it mostly when I was engaging with her. So a time when you should be engaging with your baby, where they're looking at you, concentrating on you, smiling at you. My daughter was rolling her eyes. So, and it was this involuntary eye roll, and it was very quick. Like, I'm talking, sometimes it would be 1 to 3 seconds. Sometimes it would happen a couple times in a row, but then it was done. So I brought it to her doctor's attention, and they said to me that it was a fine motor tic that she would grow out of. They said if it doesn't last longer than a second, it's not a seizure, which is not true at all, because I'll share why that's not true. But, so she started having these, and she was having them, kind of fairly often, but I noticed that it started around 4 months. Now, here's the crazy thing, okay? So I was able to breastfeed her for a little while, and Aria, what are you whining about? She's whining. Aria, what's the matter? Toy monkeys?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay. I'll try to find it when I'm done with this, okay?
Okay.
All right, go play. I'll try to find it. You can still play with your Barbies with that.
No,
Drama. Okay. All right, well, go play, because Mommy's trying to finish this up, okay? So, sorry. This is our time where we almost need a nap, so we're getting to that point. Anyways, so what I wanted to share is kind of some of the things that you notice with Glut1. So like I said, the abnormal eye movements at around 4 months old, and I had been breastfeeding her until she was about 6 months, and then I started noticing more of those eye rolls. So I brought it to the doctor's attention, and they just kept continuing to say it's a fine motor tic, she will grow out of it, this and that, right? So 2 years comes around, bring her to the doctor, same thing. Now, at this point, I had noticed that when she was a baby, she never quite sat up straight. That might sound really strange, but like I would watch her compared to how other babies would sit up, and she would kind of be like slouched over, and her muscle tone was weak, and it just didn't look quite like what, other babies looked like sitting up. I also noticed that at a very, very young age, she was unable to move the same way as other kids. We used to say, oh, she walks kind of funny. She has like her own walk or her own run. And she appeared to be very clumsy and, lacked some balance a lot of the time when she was a toddler. Another thing that we would notice is, honestly, she's always had pretty good coordination, which is wild. She's never really struggled with the hand-eye coordination much, which is crazy, but that can be another sign of Glut1. Let's see. So we have, cognitive and speech. So she started talking and saying a few words around 15 months old. But she never went into speaking full sentences. She never, she would say like 3 words at a time, and that was basically it. And then we started noticing that her speech actually declined around 3. She went from, small words, from remembering colors, numbers, letters, to just not really remembering everything. And you would ask her something and her answer would be, I don't know. She would just say, I don't know. I don't know. That's what she would say all the time to everything. So that obviously was really hard. Her concentration definitely started lacking around 3 months, and her language expressive. So she had a really, really hard time expressing how she was feeling about things. So instead of expressing how she was feeling because she couldn't communicate in that way, she would get really frustrated and mad. So we used to take her like out to eat and stuff, or out in public, and she would be mad, but she could never explain that she was mad. So she would have these tantrums and I never knew why. And it was just really frustrating for her, really frustrating for us. But that's something. So cognitive speech, concentration, expressive, balance, coordination. The other thing is around 3, she started complaining about headaches all the time. She would say, my head hurts. And she would kind of like put her hand over her eyes like this multiple times a day. And she would have pain in her legs. She would randomly just walk up to Brian and be like, pick me up, I can't feel my legs, or my legs hurt. And this happened mostly at night and seemed like it was kind of associated with the headaches. And then there'd be times where she would just sit on the couch for 15 minutes at a time, and then she'd get up and say, my legs feel better. So it was definitely like movement episodes, involuntary leg pain, headaches. She also has triggers to heat and sound. So heat especially is a really big trigger for her. She has a really hard time regulating her body temperature, which it's crazy. We actually went to the park with a couple kids. There's a couple other kids with Glut1 in Connecticut. 2 of them, Aria, and then a couple in Massachusetts as well, which is amazing because we were able to get together with several kids at the park a couple months ago. And it's crazy because you could tell all the 3 kids or 4 kids that had Glut1 because all their faces were red. So the way that their body handles heat and temperature change is not great. Oh, she found a monkey. Oh, you found one. Where was it?
It was in my closet.
It was in your closet. All right. I promise when I'm done with this, I will get them for you. I just want to finish this.
These are a lot of these thingies.
Those are a lot of those thingies?
Yeah.
I know. You're asking for some of those for your birthday, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I need a lot more of these, right?
Because you need a lot more of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yep.
Like Haley.
Like your friend Haley, yes. Yeah, you're silly. Okay. All right. Can Mommy go back to the video now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll just stand right here.
You're just going to stand right here? Okay. So, like I said, we noticed that with heat, like running around, exercise, and all that can be a trigger for her, which is crazy. And it's harder for her to regulate her body temperature. Another thing that we started to notice is sound. She would, get really upset if something was... She's tangling this monkey. Okay. Ari, I need you to go play over there, okay? I'm going to have to restart this whole thing if you don't cut it out.
Hey.
Go play. Come on. Thank you. Aria, can you please go play in your room? I will be right up there. This is what happens when I try to take, 20 minutes to do this. Can you go play in your room and then I'll come up and help you find those monkeys? Aria, please. Can you say bye to our friends? Say I'm gonna go play. Say I'm gonna go play in my room.
I'll go play in my room. So yeah, bye.
Okay, go play in your room. We're not lacking the sass, that's for sure. Okay, go play. Go play so Mommy can finish, and then I can come play with you. All right, so. Sure. I'll find the monkeys, and then we can play with them, but you have to let Mommy finish. Yes. Go play. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Anyways, triggers, heat, sound. She's also photosensitive, which means she's triggered by light And when she's in the car, she's triggered by the sun flickering into the windows. So she wears sunglasses a lot of the time. So if you ever notice that your kid seems to be like super sensitive to the sun or super sensitive to the heat and sound and all of those things, they can definitely be symptoms of Glut1. The other thing is, let's see, sudden delay. So what we started noticing is that around 3 years old, Aria was super delayed. She just all of a sudden took this like turn. And I started noticing that she was having these eye rolls that they had told me were a fine motor tic like hundreds of times a day. I kid you not, hundreds of times a day. And it seemed like they were worse with exercise. They were worse with the heat, they were worse with the sun, they were worse with so many things. And then I started noticing that it had to do with food. So what I did is I started keeping a log of what she ate and roughly how many seizures I would see after what she ate. And I started to realize it had something to do with glucose because, you know, the days when we would go out to eat, she would have more of them. The days when she had more sugar, she would have more of them. The days when she had more carb-filled food, she would have more of them. So I kept this log for a really long time and I started linking it to all the delays. Then all of a sudden her speech started to be even worse. She started stuttering. We had put her on, she had tried about 7 different epileptic medications, none of which worked for her, 3 of which made her a complete zombie, 1 of which gave her rage and made her extremely angry. And then the last one, which we finally weaned her off of after 4 months, it took us almost 4 months to wean her off of it, was her Onfi. And we were taking that, and I started noticing that was causing different kinds of seizures, and I started freaking out because she would fall like 6 to 8 times a day. And I was like, what is going on? Why is she falling? Like, is her balance really this crazy? So we ended up taking her in and having an MRI done, and they said everything, you know, looked good on the MRI. Obviously, we knew that she had childhood absent epilepsy because that's what they had diagnosed her with originally. And I said, something just doesn't sit right with me because I can tell that this is based around food. So there has to be more to the story than this. So I started researching, looking into it, and I stumbled across Glut1. The crazy thing about Glut1 is that kids can be severely delayed or they can be mild delayed, and Aria is mild delayed. You would never look at her and know that she's delayed unless you have a conversation with her and you're teaching her and you're watching her concentrate and things along those natures. Then you would look at her and be like, okay, she has some special needs. Like, you know, she needs extra help with this and extra help with that. And, but she's not the kid that you would look at and know instantly. You'd need to interact with her at first to know. She doesn't have all of the symptoms of Glut1, which is wild to me, right? Because you have the SLC2A1 gene mutation, which the majority of the children who have that mutation do have the majority of the symptoms of Glut1. But then you have the phenotype Glut1, which affects the glucose transporter. However, she doesn't have every single symptom that all of those kids have. So it's wild. So basically what they think at this point is that there's a very, 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 I stress this, broad spectrum of children with Glut1 deficiency syndrome. So what this means is there are cases that are severe and there are cases that are mild. Aria happens to have a case that's mild and quite honestly could have been completely undetected if I didn't push them. So how did we go about to diagnosing Aria? I demanded a lumbar puncture. I went in and I asked for a spinal tap because I said, all right, they're saying her genetics came back correct, fine. They're saying her MRI looks fine. But she's still continuing to have 400 seizures a day on EEG, okay? And those all the falling that she was doing 6 to 8 times a day, those ended up being myoclonic jerks, which is a form of seizure that lasts only a second, which is why I say and stress this, if a doctor tells you that a seizure it's only a seizure if it lasts 3 seconds, it is not true. There's so many undetermined things and unknown things about epilepsy in general that, you know, even doctors don't sometimes don't know the truth about it. And the best person to go to is another parent who's been through it, lived through it, and has gone through this journey every single day. So that's why I'm making this video, so that I can help educate other people to know that it's not black and white. Epilepsy is not black and white. Glut1 is not black and white. You can't just diagnose Glut1 with genetic testing. You need to do a lumbar puncture. And I'm going to stress this because Aria's neurologist told me that she had about a 7% chance of having Glut1 with normal genetic testing. Still, I said, listen, she has the delays, cognitive, speech, concentration, expressive delay, all listed on her forms from her pediatrician from her 3-year appointment, right? She has issues with balance. She has the pain in her legs, the headaches, and I've noticed that she's super sensitive, photosensitive. She had low muscle tone as a baby, and she had peak seizures around 3 years old. I want her tested for Glut1. So I demanded they do a lumbar puncture. They did a lumbar puncture, and lo and behold, Aria fell into that 7% of children who do not have the gene mutation, but do have all of these symptoms of Glut1. So what did they say? Well, we have one option, okay? That's the ketogenic diet. So I said, well, I will do whatever it takes to make this happen for my kid, because I know that this could be incredibly life-changing for her. And yes, she's a picky kid. She's never been the type of kid who eats vegetables. She still doesn't eat vegetables. I still have to argue with her to get her to eat anything that has vegetables in it, but that's besides the point. So what I recommend, because I've talked to countless parents on both pages who have said, I want to do the ketogenic diet, but I'm scared because my child is picky. Well, I am here to tell you something, okay? By the time your kid is 4 years old, they are able to know what their body feels like. And here's the problem. If they can't communicate with you that they're in pain, that they're having headaches, that they're having stomach aches, that their bones are hurting, that their muscles are hurting, that they're having pains in their legs, they don't know that that's anything but normal, right? So I'll never forget the pivotal moment. We were in the car. I was taking Aria to school last year, and this was about 2 months after, not even that she started the diet. And she looked at me and she said, Mommy, I don't have pain anymore. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, my head doesn't hurt and my tummy doesn't hurt and my whole body doesn't hurt. And at that moment, I realized that my kid had been living in pain for 4 years of her life without us even knowing, because that's all she knew, probably starting from when she was a baby. All she knew was having headaches and having leg pain and having tummy aches and not saying anything because she's expressively delayed. That's terrifying. So anyways, so we started keto. And well, no, that's not true. We started with modified Atkins diet and she basically is between a modified Atkins diet and a 3-to-1 ketogenic ratio. And I'll explain to you why. So she started the modified Atkins diet, and I asked them to start this because she's a picky kid, right? It's known that the ketogenic diet is what works for Glut1, but with the kids with the milder phenotype, who knows, right? There's not much studies. So the modified Atkins could work too. So I decided to go ahead and test that out and try it. So we went in, we spoke with the dietitian, which this is extremely important. You never want to start a child on a ketogenic diet or a modified Atkins diet without confronting a neurologist and a nutritionist or dietitian. So important, because when you have a kid and you're putting them in ketosis and you're activating those ketones, you are changing their brain, okay? So their brain is going from thinking that it needs glucose for fuel to actually knowing that it needs fat for fuel. So it completely changes things around for them, and you don't want to shock your child's system. So you need to ease them into the ketogenic diet. You never just want to start it. It's not the fad diet that you can just start on your own at home. So anyways, being in ketosis, what that did for Aria is it significantly improved her triggers. I've noticed that she can be outside longer and it's not triggering seizures as much. I've noticed that when she's in her proper area for ketones, if her ketones are not high, they're right where they need to be, she's not as affected by heat and sound. And it's wild to think that all these things could have something to do with glucose, right? We noticed instantly. So Aria was actually tested for the special education program here in town. We brought her in for the initial testing in December, and she wasn't on the ketogenic diet yet. So they said to me that they were going to have to do all the testing. They were going to have her come back in, that if she needed the help, she would get the services, right? So we knew at this time that she was delayed, and they said, she's delayed. We're going to do all the testing on her and see what happens. So she started the ketogenic diet in January, and she had all the testing done at the end of January of this year. And I kid you not, they said at the school that they have never seen anything like it. She went from testing super low to being on the low end of average in a month time span on the ketogenic diet, which means as soon as her body hit ketosis, her cognitive improved, her speech improved, her concentration improved, her language expression improved, her balance, coordination. She was no longer having those pain and leg issues, no headaches, and I was having to search for seizures after 2 months of her being on a ketogenic diet, after being able to visibly count 150 myself a day and having 400 seizures diagnosed on an EEG in a 24-hour time span. So, do I love the ketogenic diet? Yes, I love the ketogenic diet. Now, keep in mind, this was just when she was on the modified Atkins. So we were still seeing seizures, here, there. Her triggers were still kind of evident. So I started paying close attention on the modified Atkins diet to which days seemed hard for her. Which days, not even hard, because a hard day was before modified Atkins, but you get what I'm saying. So with a picky kid, you try to come up with different scenarios of things that you can make for them to eat, right? So modified Atkins is the way to go because you want to start small. So what we did is we started her with 60 grams of carb a day. Then we lowered her down to 40, then we lowered her down to 30, then we lowered her down to 20. So that's how we did it for a picky kid. That is my best advice to anybody, but like I said, you need to talk to a dietitian first. You cannot do this on your own. It's really important because you have to check their ketones daily. They have to have their blood drawn every 2 months to check all their levels. You need to talk to a dietitian and have this approved through a dietitian before you try it. But I'm here to tell you that Aria was having over 400 absent seizures daily before the ketogenic diet, and I am now having to search for them almost 10 months later. I could literally start crying because I know the pain that these parents in this group are going through, and their posts just kill me. It kills me to know that people are suffering and that they know nothing about Glut1, that they know nothing about glucose, that they know nothing about the brain barrier and how protein breaks down in the body, and that just because the genetic testing came back normal doesn't mean that they don't have something like Glut1. And I'm not saying that this is the answer for everyone, but what I am saying is that they do believe that there are 40,000 people undiagnosed. So if you have a child who you are unsure and you have trial and errored 7 different epileptic medications, none of which are doing anything but giving your child symptoms or making their seizures worse, talk about the ketogenic diet. A picky kid can do the ketogenic diet. They can. And you know why? Because after 2 weeks on the keto diet, Aria never wanted to go back to any of the foods that made her feel the way she did before she was on the diet. She was smart enough to realize that those foods were harming her body. She doesn't even ask for that stuff anymore. I find alternatives for her. I do the best I can. With the amount of protein, carbs, and fat that she has to have daily to stay within her ratio and to not go above on the protein, because like I said, the wild thing is that protein can actually change to glucose. And if she has too much protein, she's seizing. So it's very, very, very important that once you start a diet like this, you stick to it and you understand that it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be something where your kid is in ketosis and miraculously overnight they become, completely better, but it is a gradual incline. And I will tell you that Aria went from not even being able to count to 8 to now being able to count to 100. That blows my mind. She knows her ABCs. She's starting to recite lyrics from songs. Actually, this morning I was singing a song from Descendants and she corrected me. She said, "No, Mommy, this is how it goes." And she started singing it. And guess what? She was right. And these are all things cognitively that she could not have done this time last year. It just amazes me. And if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to chat or anyone needs help or wants information on Glut1, the ketogenic diet, anything I can do to help, if this video reaches one mom and makes her feel like maybe this could be the answer, then I'm happy that I did it. I know this went on really long and I had a list that I was going through, so that's kind of why, and then obviously Aria. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions, I'm trying to think, make sure that I don't forget anything because, let's see. And yes, if this does get shared in any of the groups that I'm in, please feel free to comment below, or even if you're just on my regular Facebook page and you want to comment or ask questions to me directly about it, please do. And remember what I said. Glut1 deficiency syndrome is a very, 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 very broad spectrum. So that means that glucose could be affecting anybody without people even knowing. So if you think that there's a chance that your kid has, let's see, I'll read them again. Cognitive, speech, concentration, expressive, balance, coordination, movement disorder, leg pain, headaches, triggers to heat, sound, and light, low muscle tone as a baby, and sudden delays that are unexplained, as well as onset epilepsy, seizures, getting worse, increasing, and constant round the clock, which is a big thing. So, 400 a day is like crazy, and that's what she was dealing with. So imagine your brain misfiring 400 times a day. If anyone wants to know more about Aria's seizures, I'd be more than happy to share that with you. As far as we know, she was having blank stare seizures. Here she is. She was having blank stare, myoclonic jerks, eye myoclonic rolls, and she has spikes while she's sleeping at night. But her brain actually gets a slight break while she's sleeping, which is amazing to think that. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am here for you, and I know what you're going through, and I just want you to get answers as bad as you do. All right, have a good day, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Say bye.
See you tomorrow.
Can I ask you one question really quick?
What?
What do you think about the keto diet? What do you think?
I don't know.
Do you love it?
Yeah.
How does your body feel?
Good.
Good. And do you have lots of energy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy kid, right? Happy mom.
From school.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. From school too.